Okay, so okay, Scrumbut now is the has been coined by Ken Swoper itself, and the idea is when a person is engaged only partially in an agile project management, like Scrum and Scrum plus XP, which is a typical quote of the two process used by my own teams, and engage in a semi-agile or quasi-waterfall development methodologies. So it's not the correct use of the Scrum. We would like to use Scrum, but there are a lot of buts. And when we the question, we are answering the question, do you do Scrum? And the answer are different. And so, sorry, just a moment. Okay, and so the Scrum bots are typical of the reason why teams can take full advantage of the Scrum itself. They are trying to solve problems, and in this way they are not able to realize all the benefits of the methodology. For example, this is due from in Scrum rules, the rules, or the time box, which are designed by the Scrum process itself, but they are exposed to dysfunction, and so it's very hard to fix this the Scrum bots. In this way, Scrum bots retains the problem, and because it's tried to modify Scrum. You know that Scrum, we call it a mirror, and in this way we are breaking the mirror itself, and this is very unlucky, you know, 7 years of disgrace, and we are trying to transform the process itself by making a lot of quick fixes. So in this way, the problem arises when we try to use quick fixing to adjust the process itself instead of using the process in the correct way. Which is Scrumbut has a syntax like the user story, and typically the syntax is Scrumbut, a reason, and some form of workaround. An example could be we use Scrum, but for example, the daily Scrum meetings are too much overhead, so we have only them once a week unless we need them more often. And these are typical answers I listen in Teams. There could be, we are sprint which are 6-8 weeks long or more, 2 months, 3 months. We do normal sprints and one big bug fix sprint. So we are not given a typical Scrum process where we have testing inside the test-driven inside the process. We are only coding and then testing and bug fixing. We do our planning up front, so we remain in a waterfall kind of approach. Typically, we skip the daily meeting. For example, our manager decides what is in each sprint. So this is a command control form of using Scrum. We haven't read the book yet, so we are trying to use Scrum in a different way. Or we have teams which are very, very huge with 30 people inside. Other forms we can avoid are typically goalless or soulless Scrum. I think that the goal, the sprint goal, is a very important part of Scrum. But I see a lot of time sprint without a goal at all. And so in this way, we can say that we are shooting on the Scrum messenger itself. We are in a form of planning paralysis. We have also misaligned stories which stay a lot of time. For example, we use the prisoner matrix, is like a Q theory, where we put on top of the story the number of days where the story remains without no one caring of it. We have also a command and control style, for example, product owner, which are more like they are using a control style of micromanagement. We have individual heroics, or smoke and mirror demos, a lot of lack of risk management, and overcommitment, vicious style of firefighting, overcommitment on top of the activity. But where are the sources of Scrum bots? These are the symptoms, but the sources typically this depends on the business that is not involved in the correct way, or there are a lot of stakeholders and they feature first, and so they changes. We have a scope creeping, or another form depends on teams which are not able to self-organize, are not a really cross-functional team, or they have a maturity status which is not well defined, and this also could depend on the Scrum Master or the product owner micromanagement, the Scrum Master, we can say that sometimes. Or there are also maybe people which are unavailable, resources which are not available to work full time. They are still involved in other projects. Or sometimes time boxes, which are not either two. And so we see sprints which are overflowed by the activities. And there are also teams which they don't see a need for the daily scrum, so they start removing this or removing the reviews or the retrospective, and so in this way they are breaking the inspected up cycle of Scrum. Or sometimes there is some problem due to the skills to do something, or the Scrum Master who is sometimes if we are a project manager, so he continues to tell to the team what to do. It assigns the task to the team itself. Or sometimes are other managers which are inside, they can stay out of the sprint. They are micromanagement of the team itself. Or there are what we call the expedite or the fast tracker, which continually interrupt with firefighting kind of stuff and tasks which interrupt the flow of the sprint. And these are very a lot of typical situations where we see where the sprint can start due, for example, in the synchronization with other groups, which are working in a waterfall-like style, or they are using building hardware or using waterfall. So there are a lot of possibilities. But obviously, I don't say that Scrum is fixed, is written on stone, and so we can't change Scrum. We are obviously able to tailor in Scrum and make some short-term changes to Scrum to correct some deficiencies. For example, the definition of done could be include some regression and performance testing. And this is obviously something we can perform. What I am calling with the term Scrumbut are typical dysfunction and wrong usage of the Scrum methodology. In Italian, I call it the Scrum form, Scrum or something which is a very bad and incorrect way of using the methodology. And so Scrumbut could be sometimes, for example, Henry Klimberg, Jürgen Appel, they say that using in the correct way, there could be a very important aspect of inspect adapt loop, because we know where that if we can fail and fail fast, we can inspect, adapt, and learn new possibility. So now we reverse the coin and see the butscrum. Butscrum are where we are Taliban and we are saying that Scrum says something, we have to follow all the prescriptions on Scrum, also in situations where we are not able to use correctly Scrum. And we see, for example, Scrum zombies, where we are using in a cargo way all the, in this case, for example, the daily meeting, the daily Scrum, and so yesterday Zoodle, today a Zoodle, no problem. And sometimes Scrum says we can estimate, and so, for example, we have people where there are, for example, a couple of examples, teams that break down their work far enough, they range, where the variance in estimate will be minuscule. So for me, it's not important to estimate in a very, very precise way. It's more important to have a flow of story and task. But if Scrum said we should estimate, we are trying very hard to do something which has no meaning at all. For example, Scrum says we need self-organized team. Yeah, self-organized team will be egoism. There is a magic dashboard of work on the world and people. We just naturally flow over and create a Uber team to trash out of work. Most large organizations still structure in a classical matrix manager. So tell their IT department to self-organize is quite irresponsible. And most people are multitask. Isn't a problem? Sure. Is it a reality? You betcha. Specialization is an output from our natural hiring structure. You see in all hiring message on the bulletin board. Just look at any job board for confirmation. So good luck changing that inertia. But Scrum says we need a Scrum Master. By no means do I have a hard number to back this up, but look at this. If Scrum Master were making agile software development and delivery much better, then give you Scrum Master being handed out, we should have some bad majama software coming out from the majority organization, but we don't. I'm not able even to get into the old certification battle. So that's another aspect, maybe something I would like to speak in another tool. But Scrum says we have to commit, the backlog doesn't change. Right, because market events and competition only happen in nice, predictable cycles. Scrum says that our team should be 7 plus minus 2. But I see a lot of Scrum development teams out there which have their size of 10 person and or more, and they are split geographically. A team that works well together is a team that works well together. So we don't have to be so precise on the number and what Scrum tell us. So to end my presentation, which is worse, Scrumbut or butscrum? For me, they are both horrible. One is giving you excuses why you can't try and change. The other is giving you excuses why it can change what we are trying. So the other one is completely ignoring the inspect, adapt, the typical empirical stuff of the Scrum process. So both are pointless. And so to end my presentation, the reality for me is developing a software product is hard, you know. It requires thoughts, inspection, change, and risk. You have to think. And finally, I see that the shoe hurry could be the pattern. So I end my presentation. If you have some questions,